Welcome. I'm Vernon Foster. I will be your host of Lightning Strikes for this video as well as the upcoming series that I have been diligently working on to uh, bring sharing ideas, concepts, philosophy of our native people and how these philosophies, how these concepts, how they can all tie together to help us to move forward in a modern day society. This is what brings the title to this video. The past is our future. Let me begin by sharing the idea, the old adage, you cannot live in the past. Many people have said this, especially throughout the mental health field. Many people live and practice that adage. Cannot live in the past. Well, very importantly, please understand that I do not live in the past experiences, but I live with the past knowledge and wisdom of our ancestors. And if we look throughout the world today, the Native American people specifically has a great influence on the spiritual path that we are walking in some way, in some form. Many people will say, well, it's not a Native American practice. Well, when you use a Native American expression or a Native American word, you're emanating a Native American practice. But with that being said, I want to take a look back in history and imagine a period of time when there was no roads, there was no homes, there was no construction, and there wasn't even another human being on this earth but the Red Nation. Think for a moment how that life was. The freedom of expression, the freedom to walk wherever you desired to walk, drink from the waters, the fresh, clean streams and springs, gathering the plants in the seasons when they were available, hunting for our food to sustain not only our family but our community. A time when people would gather to discuss situations that was happening in and amongst the people. Think for a moment of those times. What a beautiful time. What a beautiful thought. And the teachings of that period of time was all about connection. Connecting with not just the things that we have today in front of us, plants, herbs, all those things, but connecting with all forces of nature, all forces of elements, being able to connect with the thunder, the rain, the clouds as they move so beautifully across the sky, a connection that went beyond this world as we know it. But to be able to connect with the stars outside of this world, throughout the universe. What a beautiful connection. What a beautiful time. What a beautiful relationship. And I think back in this period of time when life began to change. And when life began to change for our native people, we learned to adapt. There are some things that we felt strongly against, and it took a long period of time. Even today, we are still struggling to adapt. But the thing that we never struggle with was our spirituality, our connection. The knowledge and the wisdom that was handed down from generation to generation through ceremony, through gatherings, through social activities. They knew. Our relatives, our ancestors, they knew what was in store for us today. Because this is why we do these things. This is why we continue to strive for that reconnection. This is why we continue to get involved and do ceremonies and do our dances and bring back the language of connection. When we look back and we think of what the people have experienced in their life, the trauma that they experienced, we also experience those things on a different level, but we experience trauma in our life. And it was those teachings that were held so dearly by our ancestors that helped them to become strong. They were a resilient people. What does resilience mean? It means to pick ourselves up and to once again become healthy, to become strong, to become successful in our life after experiencing something bad in our life. This is resilience. And it was that resilience that helped us to maintain our spiritual connection. And this is what the world is seeking today. I do not have all the answers. There's too many of you to have an answer for each one of you. So my answer is universal. My answer comes from Creator. I cannot give you the answer, but I can give you the connection to that answer, and that's the Creator. Creator has the answer, not me. Maybe perhaps if I become strong enough and I live accordingly the way I'm supposed to live, the way the instructions was left for our people to live, then perhaps Creator will give me an answer that I can share with you that may help you. So, when we begin to look at the past, we look at the knowledge, the great knowledge, the abundance of knowledge. We look at the wisdom, great wisdom. They often refer to Native American people as the wisdom keepers. Well, yes, that wisdom was kept. And when the time was right, those wisdom, that knowledge would once again come back to our people. When we look at it on a scientific level, we hear that old saying, what goes around comes around. But this is so true. Not just on a personal level, but on a level that's bigger than us. Everything that we are experiencing today, in today's society, the people have already experienced that. Let's kind of take a topic here and kind of move backwards into it. This pandemic, this COVID that is happening is the smallpox that our people experienced in the past. And they came out of it. Yes, many perished in the process. But as a whole, we survived. and we look back at the different trends, as silly as it sounds, even our fashion is coming back. So it seems as though experiences that we've already experienced is coming around again. I, not to get off the subject, but I was watching a post and they were advertising new blue jeans. And I was looking at this blue jeans and they're bell bottoms. We've already worn bell bottoms. And then they went away for a long period of time. Now they're coming back as a fashion statement. Back in the 70s, bell bottoms were very popular. They're coming back. That's just a silly little example. But there are bigger examples. It's kind of ironic that when we think about our experiences, especially as a Native American person, all that society has brought to us, we survived. And it was through ceremony, it was through our gatherings, it was through our sacred connection that we survived. Now, you are experiencing what we have already experienced. Look how they treat us if we don't wear a mask, or if we do wear a mask in today's society. Look how we're treated if we are different or act different or come across differently than what people perceive as the norm. You can refer to that as a prejudice. We've experienced that. The lack of provisions. When they tried to exterminate the buffalo, because that's where we got our strength, that's where we got teachings, that's where we got the tools, that's where we received spiritual blessings of survival. Now on a different level. When this pandemic started, people went in the grocery store and they bought all they could to stock, to store. Even toilet paper was becoming extinct almost. We know what extinction means. And some people do not have the knowledge or even know about. But there are Native American people that have become extinct. There are tribes that no longer exist because of extinction. The Yahi tribe of California, Ishi, in 1942, was the last remaining traditional a member of the Yahi tribe. And if you follow the story of Ishi, he became a living specimen in a museum. But when he died, his people died with him. He was the last. We know what extinction means. And we know what to do about it. What we're doing about it is returning to the sacred way of thinking. This is what our ancestors left us. As I travel the world, I see many people gathering in the name of the ancestors, calling on the spirits of the ancestors. We do this, but we do not call upon the spirits. Their spirits belong with them. But what we are calling upon is the wisdom the knowledge and the memory that was left behind by our ancestors so that we in our generation can begin to live the way our ancestors lived. Not physically. It would be an impossibility to live 100% the way our ancestors lived. But the ability that we have is we can begin to think like them. And when we begin to think like them, and we refer to the way they dealt with trauma, the way they dealt with the social issues within the tribes, that knowledge, that wisdom can be implemented in our everyday life. And as we have more series of these videos, we'll be exploring some of these ways, and you'll learn not only the past connection and how the spirituality worked in our Indian communities, but how we can implement those teachings into the things that we do on a daily basis. What can we do? Think about it for a moment. What is it that you can do on a daily basis? Doesn't take time, because I know time is precious to many people. But what is it in our life? Think about that for a moment. One simple, little, tiny task that you can do every single day. Let me give you a hint. Gratitude. Gratitude. When you wake up, whether you say it out loud or whether you say it in your heart, just say thank you. Now, what do you have to be thankful for? Well, you woke up. You could have journeyed in your sleep and not woken up. But you woke up to another beautiful day. You woke up to your child. You woke up to your wife. You woke up to your companion. I get to spend another day with my loved ones. Thank you. I get the opportunity to learn something today. Thank you. That's the connection. That's something that came from our past. The teaching of saying thank you came from our past. And today, we have that ability to say thank you. We have that ability to understand and to feel what gratitude is. So as we take it one step at a time, you can begin to take notes and take notes of what it is each day that you do or can do that comes from the past. Remember, the past is not reliving the past experiences of our life, but the past is living up to the knowledge and the wisdom of our ancestors. Ask yourself this. If you have grandchildren or you have children, ask yourself this. Am I going to be a good ancestor? Because one day, you will become the ancestor. And if you don't want people to forget you, to forget you and put you in the past. You want them to remember you and remember how you lived and what they learned from you in the way you lived. Remember, the past is our future. Not just mine, but all of us. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share. I think this is a very important topic to share because we are moving forward. And as we move forward, so does life. And with life comes good and comes bad. But if we remember these teachings, not my teachings, but the teachings and the knowledge and the wisdom of our ancestors, it's going to help us to move forward for a better future. I'm your host, Vernon Foster, Lightning Strikes. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for being with me.